So I am out the house on a couple of last mile gig app delivery opportunities. They're on the same app. And the way they seem to be situated is that there's going to be, I do one and then I go on to the next location. They kind of line up that way. And then with the drop off location for the second one, it is actually coming back towards the Geezer compound. I actually called the first one that I looked at when I noticed that the price had gone up slightly. I called it looked like this is one of those fuck it, I'll do it type ones. There's a couple ways you can look at a fuck it, I'll do it type one. You know it's an outright shitty opportunity, but because you're out there and in the flow of things, you say fuck it, I'll do it. And it's easy to call that a thirst play. And then there's ones like this one where, again, the dollar amount is not horrible because I'd seen it on a different app for much less. It's better, but when you think about what you're delivering, it could be much better. And so it falls into that. It falls in the mist, basically on the lower tier, inching towards the lower tier. And so it's another fuck it, I'll do it opportunity. So what are these items? The first one is a garden set, a garden furniture set. And supposedly the total weight on it is 177 pounds. And so with me bringing the Sprinter van, the Geezer van, it's something that's going to slide into the van and slide right out of the fucking bag. The second is 30 20-pound bags of garden rocks. I know that shit could have paid better. There was a time something like that would have paid closer to $100, like 2 years ago. But it's not paying that. It kind of falls into the mulch game type dollar amounts. But we're not talking about as heavy. Mulch bags typically weigh twice as much. And so if it were 30, 40-pound bags of mulch, then this definitely would be a mulch thirst game type play. So we're talking basically half the weight. For me, it's like picking up a bowling ball. I mean, my bowling balls are 16 pounds. And so, what the fuck? That's kind of the way I see it. Why am I doing it? Get my ass up, get my ass out the house, try to get my ass in gear because I got some work to do really at the Geezer compound. And if I sat around, I'd probably go back to sleep because hey, it's really an off day. It's really kind of an off day for me today, with it being a holiday. What's today? May 26, 2025. Yeah, but I guess I can say I've done stranger things, and this one is more, I guess, within a reasonable modicum of effort. I'll leave it at that. A reasonable modicum of effort. So with that, what I'll do is pick up the conversation from the first pickup location. And by the way, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. All right, so that's the first piece there. As you see here on the B-roll, it's a 5-piece set, and it definitely weighs 177 pounds. Now, what helped me out on this one was that the store had an electric pallet jack, and it raised up close enough, at least by level, to the van where I could kind of lift it up, and then a person kind of helped me at least get it to the ledge, and then from there I could pick up from the backside and push it on. Now, and taking this thing off, it will be pretty much the same effort employed. Same thing, in which I'll push the son of a bitch off and keep on moving. Now, the reason why it's so heavy is because all the pieces are inside. I'm pretty sure if you were to take a couple of pieces out, then it's like picking up a pillow. Now, while I'm at it, I must say that this time of the, I'm going to put it like this. Earlier this year, one of my guests on my weekly live stream, I'm speaking, was Pedro Santiago. And Pedro is known in the delivery and transport space, at least on the gig app side, the gig food app side, and maybe some rideshare. And I mentioned to him about this year, maybe a year of reflection. And the reason why this year may be a year of reflection, because I'm in that time of year where I do have some deep personal thoughts that tend to come up. And what I'm talking about is, it was this time 40 years ago when I had purchased a one-way trip ticket back home to Houston from California, leaving California, going back home to Houston. That ticket cost like $109. It was Continental Airlines, which is now United. Continental and United merged, and they go under the name of United. And the reason for my going back home to Houston was that my uncle had approached me for the second time within a year about going back to school. To that point, from like 1984, let's say about this time, 1984, till really the beginning of 1985, I was living my best life. I'm a young adult, very young. I'm doing the things that I'd wanted to do in previous years. What much at all. The main thing for me was being able to go to the bowling alleys, bowl league, and maybe a tournament here and there, and go to the racetrack, and then go to the beach on my day off. I'm living my best life. My uncle approached me in the fall of 1984 with what amounted to was an enrollment package to Texas Southern, and I didn't respond. 6 months later, he sent me the same package. By then, life had flipped on me. Everything that I thought was a part of my living my best life, all that shit had flipped. Bowling alley, I went through my worst bowling slump that I ever experienced. I mean, here I was, one of the better two-bit hustlers in the area, in the hood. And basically, I couldn't hit the broadside of the fucking ocean. And I know the reason why, and it was because just my mind wasn't there. My mind was just not there. And then on the job that I had worked, the store manager had cut my hours in half to where I was barely part-time. I mean, I'm not even talking part-time. I'm not talking about like 30 hours a week part-time. I'm talking about like maybe not even 20 hours. I mean, just cut my fucking hours, man. Didn't matter how good of work I did. Just no hours whatsoever. And then other parts of my life was in upheaval of really not my own doing. And so when I saw that enrollment package, I'm like, well, maybe I got nothing to lose here. The way he explained to me what amounted to, it was a part of what allowed me to go there was he managed to, he had some connections at Texas Southern. And by the way, he retired from there as a tenured professor at Texas Southern. But at the beginnings, he was still working towards his doctorate, and he was doing some adjunct work there. But he had connections in the athletic department. So what it amounted to was that there was some athletic department money that he was able to kind of put together. And back then, it didn't take much to go to Texas Southern. If you were an in-state resident, it cost for both fall and spring semesters, books and tuition, it cost maybe $1,500. Books and tuition, $1,500 for both semesters, and that's taking a full 16 hours. I know now, man, you may not even be able to afford a class for $1,500. That's how things have changed. but for me, it amounted to work study, some some athletic department scholarship money, but mostly work study money and Pell Grant money. And I literally left the streets, left the hood, and went back into a classroom. In spring of 1985, I'm out in the streets doing my thing. I guess you say I'm not living my best life now because things are in upheaval. But I left the hood spring of 1985, the last week of May 1985. In the fall of 1985, I'm in a classroom. I'm taking biology, I'm taking trig, I'm taking history, a couple of computer science, because at the time I was to be a computer science major. I ended up finishing with a degree in journalism. And despite some of the decisions I made, both good and bad, I can only look back and say that that was an ordained opportunity for me. It was an opportunity that was unique for me at that time, because Texas Southern was an open enrollment school, and I could not have qualified if for me transferring there. I could not have qualified had it not been open enrollment. The reason why I couldn't qualify for a transfer under today's terms is that I'd gone to a 2-year school and basically flunked out. Not because I was a bad student, it's because I didn't go to class. And the semester that I decided not to go to class, I did not officially drop out of my classes, so the instructors were obligated to flunk me. Yeah, so my GPA cratered because I made the fucking bonehead decision not to formally drop my classes, and I turned around thinking that I could go hustle at the bowling alleys and the racetracks. And so here I am. I left the hood, go back to the classroom, fall of 1985. Fall of 1988, I finished at Texas Southern with a degree in journalism. 2 years later, December 1990, I'd accepted a job at the Richmond Times-Dispatch, top 2% of the newspaper business. That's an improbable fucking story, to go from the hood to the top 2% of your profession within 5 years. So for some people, that could be a very emotional thing to talk about. For me, it's not emotional, but it's something that to this day I don't take lightly, because I wouldn't be, it's a very safe argument to make that I wouldn't be doing this segment of the Gig Geezer had I not taken up on that decision 40 years ago. This time 40 years ago. So I'm almost at the drop-off location, and so from there we're going to pick up the conversation at the next pickup location, where I'm going to pick up these garden rocks. And by the way, again, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. All right, so we're resuming the conversation, at least from the first drop-off location. That was garden furniture set, and pretty much that's exactly what I did. I slid it out of the van onto the driveway right in front of the garage. The customers, the recipients were pleasant folk. Actually, it tipped me a very. I mean, you have to sometimes take things for what it's worth when it comes to tips. I mean, it was a $5 tip, but it was nice of them that he even offered a $5 tip. He gave me a couple bottles of water, which I really didn't need. Actually, some flavored water that I don't need. I'll toss these out once I get further away from the neighborhood. But modicum of effort. It was a reasonable modicum of effort. And they seem to be appreciative that I brought it to them in a timely manner. And so now we go to the next location. While I was approaching that first drop-off location, the thought came to me about, with my talking of this reflection of decision that I made 40 years ago. I can't I can't even think about how life would have gone for me had I not taken up on that offer by my uncle. I just can't think of, I mean, even back then, I've not thought anything well, actually, I take that back. After my first semester, I was thinking about not going back home to Houston. I went back to California for Christmas, and I was thinking about not going back because there was a lot of uncertainty. I just didn't know where I was going. But then my father stepped up and contacted my uncle and told him what I was doing, and they opened their doors to me. My uncle and his wife, my aunt, they opened their doors to me, and I stayed with them for a semester. And from there, it was on. And again, I say that despite some decisions that I made along the way, at very strategic points, there was always someone who stepped up and kind of stood in that breach on my behalf. And it just seemed like it was an ordained experience for me to go back and get my degree. But it started with me making that decision. Now, but before then, I may not have, maybe a similar scenario occurred a couple years earlier when I was contemplating not going to school. And what I mean by that is when I contemplated quitting school because of situation at home had just gone to shit. Just things were just going to shit, and I was fucked up, at least in my mindset of doing things. I remember a guy at the bowling alley, a guy named Earl Lowry, tried to talk reason to me about why I should try to stick it out and stay in school. But I didn't see it that way. I wanted to make money. I wanted to do things to help out in the house, help my mother out. I wanted to have money to bowl in tournaments and bowl pot games and go to the racetrack. And I wasn't having it. I wasn't listening really to the conversation. And Earl Lowry was not the salt of the earth. I've described this guy before. Earl Lowry was not the salt of the earth. In fact, he was an insurance agent, ironically. And of all things, I am an insurance agent. But I wasn't listening. And if anything that I would share or impress upon y'all in any of the segments of the Gig Geezer, you may want to listen to what I have to say. I've said that before. I've had folk to assail me and saying that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm a special head case and all that shit. But I have lived life long enough. I have made bad decisions. I've made good decisions. I've had breaks happen for me in life. And, I'm thinking about where I'm at right now. My last few segments of the Gig Geezer have talked about how I've worked my way up in the gig economy. I've talked about how, what else? The most recent one, about revisiting the hidden costs of doing this and revisiting a video from 2 years ago. And here's the thing. I wouldn't be in this van had I not listened to that still small voice. Had I not recognized the trends that I'd seen with gig food delivery. I mean, back then, between 2020 and 2022, there was a lot of good money being made doing just gig food delivery work. There were people making $2,000 and $3,000 a week on just one fucking app, man. One app. That's how crazy the money was. I mean, I was making, I could make $200 within 5 hours. That was the easiest fucking money that I'd ever made. That money helped really put me in the position that I'm in now if I were to make that argument. Okay. But yeah, $200, $300, $400 a day. If you put in 8 hours, it was not out of the realm of possibility to make full $500. Okay. Again, I never made that type of money. Typically it was like $200, $300. Oftentimes I'd stop once I got into the $200 range. I was able to keep kind of a consistent schedule because the money that was being made was rather predictable. You knew that you needed to be out by 10 o'clock, be on the apps by 10 o'clock. You wanted to schedule everything around DoorDash. And then you needed to have Grubhub and Uber Eats as backup. And then if you really want to try to get some big money, you can probably catch a decent Instacart order. It was not out of the realm of possibility to see Instacart orders for over $100. Fucking easy money, man. But as they say, all the good things come to an end. And that shit came to a crashing end, in my opinion, by mid-2022. And when I got to looking at the numbers as I'd made over previous years, I saw how I went from 76 to 82 to 81. And I'm looking at how I'm having to work a little harder to make that same money. And I'm like, I need to look at other things. And I happened to meet this young guy in a parking lot of a Walmart. He was supposed to have been a guest of mine when I'm speaking. He calls himself the Cargo Van King. I happened to talk to him, and I was impressed with his business acumen for a much younger guy. And while he was driving a smaller van, that Dodge Ram City, it got me to thinking about a Sprinter van to try to give myself a greater earnings capacity. Now, all that is to say, if I tie it all together before we get to the next pickup location, if I tie it all together, again, had I not taken up on my uncle's offer the second time, I have no idea whatsoever where I'd be at life. But because I took up on that opportunity, because I saw that basically I had nothing else to go back to. I had nothing else to go back to, man. Nothing. When I left, go back to Houston 40 years ago, this time 40 years ago, my sister bought me a suitcase that I used really for the next 20 years. And I basically took everything that I had in my possessions, everything that I owned in both hands. I had a Bacardi tennis bag. It was a Bacardi tennis bag that I used for other personal items that I brought on board to the plane. And then there was my suitcase. And basically everything I owned was in those two items. I had $100 in my pocket. And just the thought of, well, I'm going to Texas Southern. Not thinking anything about it, man. Really not thinking anything about it. And the irony was that I remember going to the the Wheeler Street Y that used to be across the street from Texas Southern, and not really understanding that was Texas Southern. But I'm going to the place of my beginnings, basically. I returned to a place of my beginnings in Houston, in 3rd Ward, and set myself on a path that basically was life-changing, life-altering. And some of the decisions that you do out here in the delivery and transport space could have the same type of implications and impact. Same thing. And that's why I say you may want to listen to what the old guy has to say, because I'm not gonna try to steer you in the wrong direction. The last thing I need to do is steer you in the wrong direction. That's irresponsible. That's I'll just leave it at that. Irresponsible. There's enough people out there that put out irresponsible content. I'm not that way. And so hopefully you get something out of that. So now we're going to resume the conversation from the next pickup location to tie this up, this quick jaunt out here, doing a couple of fuck it, I'll do it opportunities. And again, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment, the Get Geezer, or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. Okay, so I am probably less than 10 minutes away from the drop-off location with what turns out to be, I was wrong, it was not garden rocks, it was actually mulch. So I'm playing the fucking mulch game on this second delivery. I guess I misread it. 30, 20-pound bags. I'm thinking that it's garden rocks, but it's not. But they're light enough to where I can toss the shit in a pile and keep it moving. The other good thing about this is that the drop-off location is less than 10 minutes from the Geezer compound. And so with it being overcast and showing signs of rain, I can drop this shit off and keep it moving. Now, quite honestly, I wasn't looking to do anything like this, but like I said about an hour ago, that this is something that kind of get the Geezer out of the house and to get them moving, because I really believe that if I'd stayed around, I'd probably still be in bed trying to go back to sleep. But I need to get off my ass and do something. I guess that is what happens when you're at a certain stage in life. But also, I mean, hey, the money that's made is enough to, the money that I'll actually earn is actually money that I can put back, which is probably the most desirable thing. But if need be, the money that I earn today is enough for a tank of gas in the Geezer 16, the box truck. So, if for nothing else, it will either help with cash flow, but more desirably, it's money that I'll be able to put back. And so, this is how it appeared on the pallet, and this is how it appeared at the drop-off location. And since I'm done with this segment of the Gig Geezer, hey, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane. As always, may your grind and may your hustle continue.